You do not want to miss this episode. I'm talking to Victoria Cluney, a real estate investor from Ottawa who balances a real estate career with a military career. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Control and Compound. I am Darren Mitchell, and I'm excited for the guest today. We've tried and coordinate schedules for a while to get Victoria on. She's a real estate investor. She does some really cool things in real estate, and she's going to share her experience and how you can balance that with a career. So without any more introduction, Victoria, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Darren. And, it's sometimes the hardest things to get are the best. So I just maintain that.
Well, first of all, I want to thank you for your service. You've been part
you.
of the Canadian Armed Forces now for 23 years.
Hard to believe.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So let's get right into it. So you're a real estate investor. How do you balance your military career and your service to our country with a full-time real estate company as well? How do you balance all that together?
I had to get ruthless with my priorities. And then I had to really learn to delegate and put systems and processes in place. And so that has been the thing that has just been the biggest catapult for me when I learned how to be able to manage the things that are most important, but also the things that move the needle the most. And so being able to identify that. My background is organizational psychology. So I use a lot of human dynamics in leveraging my strengths. So I, know what I'm good at. And I lean hard into the things that I have high capability into. And then I learn to outsource all the stuff that drains me, because we all have the things that you might do things much easier than I when it comes to running numbers or admin or whatever your genius is might not be mine. Doesn't mean I can't do it. And so when I learned how to identify where I was losing the most energy and what was taking the most capacity from me, and then I outsourced it, everything opened up.
I love that. My last coaching session at Strategic Coach, we spent a couple hours on that. It's what is draining your energy, and what are the things you are doing that you should be farming out to someone else to allow you to work on what you're really good at. So I love that, identifying your unique ability. So tell me how you first get started in the real estate investing world. How'd you dip your toe in the water going back?
Well, I fell into entrepreneurship at a young age. I was about 20 years old. And when I talk about the power of networking, because I joined the military when I was 18, I was around grown-ups, as I say, quote unquote. And most of these people owned homes, and that was sort of what you did. And I got posted from Ontario to Nova Scotia. And so it just didn't even occur to me not to purchase a home. And it was my first home. It ended up becoming a pre-construction townhouse. And I went through and I felt wild choosing the colors and the flooring that the builders would give me, 7 examples to choose from. And I'm 19, 20 years old and just thinking that this is so big and such a big deal. I move into the townhouse. And what I quickly realized was what I bought that townhouse for is now worth a lot more, because I noticed the prices of the next ones that were coming up. And that's where just the entrepreneur in me blossomed, and I decided to list it. I sold it a year later. I made about $20,000. And to me, this is back in 2004. So to me, that was big. That was almost my year's worth of salary. And I went and I just put that money right back into a single family home, also pre-construction. Now I'm at a bigger level where I'm actually going out and I've got an allowance now. And so I'm designing kitchens and I'm choosing the roof and the siding. And it was pretty cool. And by that time I had entered into a relationship, and that relationship was not good for me. And I left it, and we ended up splitting the difference. I left it. I purchased a bungalow, intending to move into the bungalow, and then got posted to the United States for NATO. I worked for NATO in Virginia about 3 months after. And this was now around 2006, 2007. The market is starting to crash. It's right on the precipice. And I would have lost a lot of money trying to sell that property in a short amount of time. And that's when I decided to become a landlord. And I just look back, now I'm 41, and I look back at that 20-year-old kid who was figuring it out. So everything that was happening was just basically out of being resourceful, not from knowledge, not from education, but just natural resourcefulness. So I'm really proud of that. And yeah, managed for about 10 years, building a portfolio, slow growth, as I say to a lot of people, did not know to look for education, didn't know to look for mentors. There was no social media back then. I just wasn't exposed to people doing what I was doing. And so I just grew very slowly. And yeah, once I started to, I bought a glamping retreat. It was a couple of cottages on a lake. It was about 4 in total. And I decided to turn it into a glamping retreat because there was no facilities like washroom facilities, but it was powered. So I just like outfitted that. And that is when everything changed for me because I created an account, an Instagram account for it because I thought, well, it's great to market it. And that's when my world just exploded because I was now introduced to just different possibilities, investors. It's a crazy revelation and how much time went by not knowing any better.
That's awesome. So getting transferred to the U.S. with a property in Canada, I guess early on you realized you weren't going to be able to manage all these properties by yourself. So how did you start farming out management of properties and managing properties from a different country? How did that come about, and where did it lead you?
So in the military, you're family, and you live, sleep, breathe the military and the people in the military. And those were my friends. And they're the type of people that will do anything for you. And that's literally what I did. I put an ad on Kijiji and my email, and I found the right tenants. I went through the whole process, figuring it out again, and not savvy. I figured out enough to get by. So enough to pay like my expenses and then the rent. And there was nothing extra. I had no payment for management. I didn't believe in paying for other people to do things that I could do myself. That was a big limiting belief. So we were kids. And I was looking at a couple of emails the other day, just going back in time, of my friends just doing drive-bys for me and me communicating with the tenants. Eventually, I moved back to Canada. And these were moments that really stood out to me that I knew I wasn't the right fit to be the landlord. It drained me, going back to things that drain you. Because again, I don't know how to do plumbing. I don't know how to manage a property, especially back then. I do now. I've had enough properties under my belt, but grown men would be calling me because maybe the water would be discolored and I would come over and again, have no idea what I was doing. And so I called up my buddies in the army that would know what to do. And so I just used relationships at that time to navigate the process. What it did was drain me. What it did was cause a lot of resentment for being a landlord and not enjoying the process and not wanting the phone calls. And there was a moment in time that I actually sold my entire portfolio and said, I'm getting out. I don't want to do this anymore. But when I sold it and I actually saw the money and I saw the cash that I had earned over a decade of investing, I knew that, okay, this was actually the right fit. I was remotivated, but I decided to do it differently. And I decided to do it with intention and learn how to do it the right way.
So I love that. So you mentioned you didn't have a mentor, you didn't join a real estate group. And what did you learn from that experience? And are you around other real estate? Are you in a real estate group now? Are you around mentors? Do you have some direction, or is this all self-taught?
No, so certainly once I decided to open up my eyes, I hit the books first and foremost. And then I started to look for groups, and I attended a networking group for the first time. And it was a women's group here in Ottawa. And I looked around the room, and all of a sudden I'm seeing women just like me for the first time doing things that were bigger than what I was doing. And I said to myself, and I'll never forget it, that if she can do it, I can do it. I'm a very capable person. What I do in the military is, no easy feat. And I'm confident. I'm a senior officer. I lead a lot of people. I manage a lot of projects. I can adapt and overcome. And so I'm like, okay, I just need to now learn the process because I haven't been exposed. Well, you don't know what you don't know. And so it started there. It started with networking. It started to expose myself to other investors that were doing bigger things than me. And today they're my friends. Today we're now doing projects and partnerships together. And, it's a pretty incredible. I joined groups. I paid. I believe in paying. When you pay attention, and, borrowing other people's experiences and confidence. And what I did find joining groups was a lot of things that I didn't want in the investing world, a lot of things that were red flags to me in the investing world. And so I really navigated and carved out my path. I think that having the experience that I have in the past and being a leader has helped me really identify good leaders and poor leaders. And I think that there's a lot of risk that's being taken out there that could be mitigated with the right leadership and the right training. So I became very critical about some certain groups that I was in, and I started to carve my own path. But this year alone, I've had 5 coaches. So I do one-on-one coaching. I'm in groups. I pay for a lot of education because I really believe in it. And I also have my own group. It's for business, investing, and leadership development. And so for me, to be the best leader that I can be for my students and the people that I mentor, and for my own professionalism, that, I do a lot of educating.
Yeah, I love that. Investing in yourself.
Absolutely.
I'm a big believer in paying for investing and paying for coaches. I've always had coaches, and every time you think you know something, then you turn around and you realize how little you know, because
Absolutely.
there's always someone that knows more. I'm curious, you kind of hit on a couple of them, but what would be some of the key things you learned in the military that helped you in the real estate world?
Delegation has been the thing that has helped me the best, and hiring. So I'm actually a selection officer. I have a master's in organizational psychology, and so I understand behavior in the workplace. I understand personality, workplace personality, and being able to select the right person based on their competencies. And so that has given me a huge advantage when it comes to dealing with people, assessing behavior, finding the right fit, and then getting the best out of people. Because sometimes you can have the right person in the job, but you can have the wrong leader that leads the team. And so you don't get the best performance from the individuals. And so that's what I really find has helped me in all the partnerships that I've had, all the people that work for me, the teams, and anybody that I support.
So what would you say you're like, if someone says, great, I'm interested in growing a real estate portfolio, so I guess 2 questions. One, if you could go back in time, would you get that education and coaching earlier? And number 2, what strategies do you think people should look at today to grow their real estate empire?
So great question. 100%. I wish that I would have gotten coaching earlier. People ask me all the time, like, what is your biggest failure or regret? I lost $200,000 in private lending deal gone bad about 2 years ago. And I don't say that's my biggest regret. My biggest regret is not getting the education sooner, because the cost of the inaction is in the millions. It doesn't even compare to that 200,000. I believe, like, once you learn how to do it once, you can do it a million times over. And so that, to me, definitely getting the education sooner, and knowing that, people, even the wrong coaches teach you something. So I don't think that there is any love lost when you go. And I think a lot of people are very protective about that, where I just go in with that open mind that I'm going to learn something, and I'm going to be able to I'm going to recoup that investment in some capacity, whether it's like not doing something or going towards something. And then your second question, I had it on the tip of my tongue.
As far as what strategies would you suggest to people starting out, or people even seasoned investors? What do you see the good strategies today for the real estate? Again, it's always a great time to invest in real estate, but the last couple of years have been a little challenging in a lot of different areas. So what are you seeing as the strategies that work today?
The strategies I believe that work today, and I think will work and stand the test of time, is really understanding what you're aligned with, your lifestyle and your financial goals, and not necessarily just following the herd, listening to one person that might talk a lot about one type of asset and one type of strategy, making sure that it aligns with you and your situation. So conducting a self-assessment, knowing what your values are, and making sure that that strategy aligns with your values. What's your priorities? Do you have capacity? Is your lifestyle able to take that on, or are you willing to do what's necessary to be successful in that? I think a lot of people jump in because people can be good salesmen. I'm persuasive myself. Like what I do, I love it. So it comes through in how I talk, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the way that I do things is the way that you should do something. And you have to really look at that full picture holistically and understand where your strengths are, how to lean into your strengths, and then how to outsource those other areas.
Yeah, I love the way you've been able to manage them both. I remember my roommate at university, still a good friend of mine to this day. He was a varsity athlete, and he always said he was better student when he was playing sports and practicing every single day because he was forced to manage his time down to the 15 minutes
Yep.
to get everything done. And then when he had all the abundance of time when sports was over, he wasn't able to manage it. So I love that you've been able to maintain a career, because people think, oh, I'm going to eventually have to be full-time real estate. And I'm sure that's in your future at some point, but you can have a career and still manage that. And I wanted to ask you, one of the things I've heard you speak about is a business mindset. And that's kind of what I was getting at. If you approach real estate like a business, and I think that's where a lot of people fail, can you just speak to that a little bit? Like, how do you approach real estate from a business mindset?
Oh, I love that question. And I talk to people all the time, right? And even today, for example, I was talking to somebody and they're struggling to get a property and it's been taking over a year. And I said, okay, great. That happens. What systems do you have in place? Like what processes? How are you managing this? And they're like, they don't have anything. They don't treat it like a business. So from a business mindset, it's putting all of those things in place and understanding that this is a business. If you want to grow this and you want to do something with it, so you have to market yourself. You have to understand marketing. If you're somebody that is raising capital or you want to develop relationships or partnerships, there is an element of marketing in this. There's the accounting side of it. Do you have a bookkeeper, or are you doing this yourself? Do you have an accountant that is real estate focused? Are you running this? Are you managing a personal brand even? People are not building their personal brand when it comes to real estate investing, and they just like show up and they don't understand why they're not moving the needle, but they're not looking at it from that business mindset where, okay, if I put in these systems and processes, if I'm not streamlining my operations, some people grow really quickly, especially, a couple of years ago when the wind blew and you could just like get a property that was going to make you money. But you might acquire so many and then you realize that you're just like completely overwhelmed because you haven't put the systems and processes in place to manage that property effectively, and they're not stabilizing. And so when you have standards within your business and operate like SOPs, when you have SOPs in place, you don't deviate from those SOPs before you go on to the next one.
Oh, wish Christina was here. She would just love that.
Yeah,
It's like systems and processes. That's
yeah,
what we try to live by, control and compound, because once
I love that.
you follow a system, everything just goes smoothly. So you're in the Ottawa region. Now, I'm sure there's a lot of pros of the Ottawa region. You've got a lot of federal government employees, you've got a lot of military, you've got a lot of stable employment. But what are the challenges in the Ottawa region for a real estate investor?
Ontario with the landlord, that's the obvious one that I'll say right there. It's working against us. And so taking on tenants that you have not selected yourself puts you at just a higher risk. And so that right there is really challenging. The appreciation is great here, but it also makes it very expensive and very difficult to find cash flowing properties. But like I've moved into more of a development in the Ottawa area. And so I changed. Like I'm one of those people, I say, like, do as I say, not necessarily as I do, because I like variety. It's something that I enjoy. So I have a very diversified portfolio. I've got developments, I've got long-term buy and hold, short-term rentals, a medium-term rental. I've got a motel, but I like it. I thrive in that type of environment, and I enjoy it. And so, yeah, I would definitely say the tenants are probably the most risk right now is what I would look at, because one bad tenant that you take on, it can really sink you. And so if you don't have, again, standards in place when you're taking on these types of tenants, or you don't have the knowledge or the support in order to manage problems that come up or plans in place for exit strategies, then people can find themselves in a lot of hurt.
Yeah, I want to ask a couple questions on that, or at least one on the tenants, because I've been there, and I've been there in Ontario with a bad tenant, and you're literally at a point where it's like, take this bag of money and leave, please. What would you say from a screening perspective are the lessons you learned when you're looking to fill a vacant place, when you screen that potential tenant? What are some of the lessons you learned or best practices you learned in identifying who's going to be a good tenant?
Certainly the history is a big eye opener, and, being unafraid to ask the tough questions about, like, why they were at a location for a short amount of time, following through with actually doing the calls to call their references, and fact checking the references as well to make sure that it's not their buddy sitting right beside them. And so doing that due diligence. Credit checks are also really important that I think a lot of people just neglect. And then also getting that feel in place. So when we do an application for tenants, then we get them to fill out. We put a post up, tenants will apply, and then we have our own application that we get them to fill out, because I want to hear from them directly. I want to hear why they want that property, what their history was. Are they paying attention to the instructions? Are they diligent? Like, do they show up? Because if people are giving you red flags when they're supposed to be putting their best foot forward, then that's a good indicator that there could be red flags down the road. Understanding the Human Rights Act as well is going to be very important to make sure that you're covering yourself as a landlord. The full due diligence and asking the hard questions is important. And then those are probably the main ones. And your gut, if there's something off, then we say probing questions. So ask more questions, get them to keep talking, because often people will reveal a lot of information when you just let them talk and you aren't afraid to give the pause.
Yeah, I remember when I joined a real estate group, the first time I joined a real estate group and paid for my education, like first day, they're like, we'll always call two landlords ago, because the current landlord probably just wants to get rid of them, called two landlords ago. And I was like, I can't believe I never did that. I can't believe. And I look back and I'm like, yeah, like if say now we use that for job interviews, right? Like we're interviewing for a couple of positions now, and it's like, no, I want to talk I want to talk to someone you worked for like 2 or 3 years ago that has no skin in the game, whether you get this job or not. So
absolutely, yeah, people's motivation is a big factor in how they're going to respond to a situation.
Yeah. So you've been very successful in real estate, and I love that you shared some mistakes too, because we've all made them. What would be your proudest achievement in the real estate investing world in the last 20 years?
Whoa. The motel for me is a huge pivot and a very proud achievement. So I think from an external factor, like the motel would be the thing, because it really did open up my eyes. It was the time in my life where I said no more. Like I saw what was happening between the landlords and the tenants, and a lot of conflict was happening. And even though I was successful with the buy and holds and I was good at what I was doing, my values came into play, and I just said no more. I just want to do this that feels good, feel good investing. And that really opened up my eyes to active income. That percentage is quite nice. It opened up my eyes to being able to, the value that you put into something is the value that you get out. I have control again over my asset. It's commercial. Even if they change the Airbnb and the short-term rental laws, this is hospitality. It's commercial. They won't change that for the motel. It gave me that control back that I felt like I was losing. And it gave me just that extra zest again, and the confidence to continue my path, to listen to my gut and my instincts. And I haven't looked back since. So the motel, certainly. And then also I have to say social media, because it was something I was very much inhibited over. Again, being military and not growing up with social media, I shunned it. I thought that it was about vanity metrics. I just saw people wanting likes and putting selfies up and all of those things. And I didn't understand its benefit for business. And so now what it's done, and the relationships and the connections that I've built through social media, it's life-changing. And so I'll never look back from that. And I'm just continuing to grow, and I get excited every day.
That's awesome. So you're giving back, you're coaching, you've got, so tell us what your coaching or your group where people can learn from you and what you experience. Talk about that a little bit. And is that the same as your Build organization for women, or is it separate?
It's an add-on. And so I'm really just creating this empire of all the things that I love: business, investing, and leadership development, which is what Build stands for. And so I have a program, it's called Build Pro, and it takes entrepreneurs from all industries. And so we've got photographers, we've got contractors, we've got coaches in there, we've got any industry that you can think of is inside this group. And what they're doing is we're teaching them how to enhance their messaging, how to identify who their target audience is, and then how to speak directly to them, all the systems and processes to streamline so that they're not wasting time on things that are not moving the needle, how to lead and manage a team. For real estate investors that are in this program, it's not teaching you how to invest in real estate, although I do personalized Q&A after every call, so everybody does get their questions answered. And I get a lot of real estate investing questions, just the nature of my background and the people that I attract in this community. But the intent is to help them run it like a business, how to learn how to market themselves to the right investor, and how to screen investors to make sure that you're aligning your goals with your passive investors' goals, so that we're mitigating all of the relationship problems that happen often when people just like jump into business together, but they don't answer the right questions or they don't do the right due diligence. And so we really cover the marketing, the sales, the communication, the operations, the leadership of running a business. And it's weekly calls. The community is incredibly engaged. Last night was all about newsletters. So everybody learned how to do a newsletter, how to bring people into your newsletter, and then how to repurpose that so you can create maybe, 17 different pieces of content with one product. So it's all about just streamlining. It's awesome.
That's very cool. We'll put all that stuff in the show notes. So what's next for you in your real estate journey? What are you looking forward to in the next couple of years getting involved in?
I'm looking forward to retiring, if I can say that. I love the military, but it's getting time for me to, move on to that next phase. I'm in a contract right now, so that's why that I've been staying put, and there is loyalty in that. And so I want to make sure that I'm fulfilling my contract, but I'm looking forward to the freedom that I haven't had from that capacity. I've been able to maximize as much as possible, humanly possible, but that will open up a lot more opportunities of growth. I have a tiny home manufacturing company that, we are in the launch phase right now. I pitched on the Dragon's Den not too long ago, so that's going to be releasing, which is probably going to create a bit of a whirlwind. And continuing to grow the Build Pro group, it's where my heart is. It's something that watching these entrepreneurs get their first clients, get their investors, build their businesses, earn the revenue that they deserve, and just like create a business and life that they love is something that it fills my cup. I can't tell you how much when I see them just sharing their wins. And I also have the We Build, which is the Women Empowered. So this is a group that is in person in Ottawa, because that's where it all started for me. And so I love seeing people come into this group. Maybe they've never networked before, and just watching their journey. And we're expanding. So we're actually going to be opening up some chapters that are in Toronto right now, and some other areas that I'm assessing. And it's going to be very structured, standardized. We're going to treat it like a business, where if you go to a We Build event in Ottawa, it's going to feel the same going to one in Toronto, going to one in Vancouver, and the standards stay the same, because that's what's important to me.
That's very cool. So your tiny home manufacturing, what size tiny homes? Like, what's the average tiny home?
So they're 10 by 35, 479 square foot. So we say the not so tiny homes, like these are homes for people to live in. The benefit of these homes is that they meet the Ontario Building Code and they're CSA approved. So they can be placed on residential lots. And we're also working with businesses like campgrounds, mobile home parks, and other types of venues that can have these. We're creating villages, and there's tons of versatility with these homes.
Very cool. I know you can't share anything from
I wish, I
Dragon's
know.
but can you share when the show will be out?
So it's now started airing. I don't know what date our episode is going to be. At the time, we weren't sure if we were going to make it. That's what they tell you. Even if you pitch, doesn't mean that you get on the show. But of course, I've been watching, and I saw our logo in the background and on the big screen. So like, I'm 99% we've made the show, and it could be anywhere between now and November. But I'll certainly be sharing it when I get out there, for sure, when I see it.
Awesome. Well, listen, I could talk all day about
Me too.
real estate. This is exciting, but I want to wrap it up. Last question for you. So if you could pick any piece of property in Ottawa, whether it's for sale or not, to develop, is there some area of Ottawa that you think there's really some great growth potential, and where would you look?
Oh, I like that. Well, I'm going to give you two, just because I over deliver. But I have two developments right now in areas that I actually really do love and I think are great. So one is in Alta Vista, and that is like near downtown. It's a residential neighborhood, but the development is starting to happen. And then Orleans is another area that is really starting to build up. And that's about 20 minutes from downtown, and lots of opportunities there. So I feel very confident in those two areas.
Very cool. All right. So all your social media handles, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and LinkedIn, all Victoria Cluney.
That's right.
We'll put those in the show notes. Victoria, thank you for your service. Thank you for your time today. Really enjoyed it. Have a great day. Thanks for watching this episode of Control and Compound. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell button so you never miss a new episode. And if you're ready to learn more, head to our website, controlandcompound.com. The link's below.